everybody, welcome to the Bioenergetics of Mixed Martial Arts. I'm Dr. Jason Gillis. In this course, we're really going to be dealing with the science of mixed martial arts, but I want to show you exactly what we're going to cover, so let's go and review that. So we're going to cover 10 sessions in this course. The first one, starting with the essentials, we're going to talk about how we get energy, and we're going to break it down in a simple and easy to understand way. In session number 2, we're going to talk about a little bit of bioenergetics. We're going to talk about the ATP-PCr system. Now, if you're interested in the system that's responsible for generating very powerful movements, then this is it. In session number 3, we're going to focus on another energy system. It's called anaerobic glycolysis, and it gets a lot of attention in mixed martial arts, and I'm going to try to make my case, pushing the point that it's not as important as a lot of people think. Next, we're going to talk about aerobic energy metabolism. This energy system is responsible for allowing you to maintain a high intensity over the course of a whole round and over the course of a whole fight. After that, we're going to move on to talk about maximal aerobic fitness, which you may have heard terms like your VO2 max, that sort of thing. We're going to describe that. In session number 6, we're going to talk about your anaerobic threshold, which is pretty important. It's probably more important, a better indicator for your performance in the cage than your VO2 max. We'll describe all those things. In session number 7, we're going to contrast low and high intensity training. Now, we're going to tell you why high intensity training is going to be more effective than low intensity training. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. In session number 8, we're going to talk about, very importantly, how you actually target all these energy systems that we were talking about in the early part of this course. Really important. We're going to give you the workouts. We're going to give you the work to rest ratios, going to give you examples. So you really want to stay tuned for that. That's a very helpful lecture, number 8. In number 9, we're going to talk a little bit about periodization in mixed martial arts. And periodization, if you're not familiar, that's really just how you organize your fight plan across maybe 3 months if you're fighting in 3 months, all the way up to a year, whatever it is. We're going to give you a little view on how you structure and set up your fight plan. And in the final session, session number 10, I'm going to show you how you take all those workouts that you saw in session number 8 and how you put them all together to develop endurance in mixed martial arts. So we're really going to be focusing on the metabolic demands in mixed martial arts here in this course. But I just want to let you know where this fits in terms of your overall MMA performance, because it's not just endurance that influences how you perform in the cage, is it? We all know that. There's a whole bunch of different factors that influence that. So let's review some of them. Your flexibility, it's going to be a pretty important factor. If you can't perform certain techniques, then you're going to be at a disadvantage compared to somebody who can. Technique and skill. This is by far the most important factor that influences your performance. You can be strong, you can be fit, you can have all the psychological skills, but if you don't have the technique and if you don't have the skill, then you're probably going to lose. Tactics. How you actually implement your skills is going to be of critical importance. Your psychology. If you don't think that you can win, then you're not going to win. We have a whole course on this. It's called the MMA Training Bible Step-by-Step Guide to Goal Setting. So if you want to know more about that, I suggest you check that out. Nutrition is pretty important. Nutrition, it incorporates everything from what you're eating to how you're managing your weight. Now, you don't want to be fighting in a weight category that's inappropriate for you. So you have to make sure that your nutrition is on. Your strength and your power. It's going to be very important. It's going to help you get out of sticky situations. I can't count the number of times that I've overpowered somebody who had better technique than me just because I was a little bit stronger than them. Agility. It's a very underrated factor in mixed martial arts performance. And then we have this performance factor of endurance. It's pretty important. And there's a couple of different things under the umbrella of endurance that you want to be mindful of. There's anaerobic endurance. And that's anaerobic is your ability to perform at a very high intensity. You can't do it for very long though. And then you have the pace that you set. And then you have aerobic endurance. So these are all the factors that relate to how you perform in your endurance in the cage. And there's a whole bunch of sub-factors that influence all of these. There's a whole bunch of energy systems in particular, and if you're talking about anaerobic energy systems, there's the ATP-PCr system, there's anaerobic glycolysis. If we move over to the aerobic side, there's a couple factors that influence your aerobic performance. There's going to be something called your anaerobic threshold, which we're going to cover, and there's something called your VO2 max, which is your maximal aerobic fitness. And there's lots of factors that influence even these. Factors that influence your VO2 max, it's the amount of oxygen that your body can take in, and that's going to be influenced by the red blood cells in your body. It's also going to be influenced by oxygen delivery to those muscles, which is going to be influenced by your cardiac output. And if you're not familiar with what cardiac output is, that's a combination of your heart rate, so how fast your heart is pumping the blood, and then your stroke volume, which is how much blood your heart is pumping out with each beat. And you can modify all these factors with training. Your VO2 max, it's also going to be influenced by oxygen use, and there's a whole bunch of factors that influence how your muscles use oxygen. It's going to be the muscle type. So type 1, type 2 fibers, and there's a whole bunch of sub-classifications of those. And then it's going to be influenced by other metabolic factors as well. Certain factors are going to include aerobic glycolysis, aerobic oxidation. So there's a lot of factors that influence your performance in the cage. It's not just endurance. That's really what we're going to focus on in this course, but just know that there's a lot of different factors that you really need to be mindful of. So that's the introduction to the course. I hope you have a good idea of what we're going to cover in this course, which is going to focus on the metabolic demands of mixed martial arts. And I'm looking forward to getting started with you. So we'll see you in that next video.